Good morning. It is September 2nd, 2024. This is Robert Sin at CEO Technician on X at Goldfinger on CEO.ca. And this is Goldfinger Capital. And this is part two of my August 2024 site visit series, Journey to the American West. This time we're going to Arizona, to flying into Phoenix and driving throughout the Arizona copper belt. So, forward-looking statements. We're going to be talking about exploration and drilling and uncertainties. Definitely a speculative endeavor. So, for people who are involved in the mining industry, mining investors, speculators, executives, Arizona is very well known. I mean, it is the mining state in the U.S., actually. It produces 70% of the copper generated by the United States, and it accounts for more than 10% of the total, minerals that the U.S. produces each year. So more than $10 billion worth of, minerals produced in Arizona annually. So I guess the U.S. total produces about 100 billion. Arizona accounts for slightly more than 10 billion of that. And it has a long history of mining, and especially copper. I mean, of course, there's gold, there's silver, there's precious metals in Arizona, but copper is the real bread and butter of the state. And it just so happens that um, there's a porphyry belt that extends up through Arizona from south to north, sort of southeast to northwest. And we're going to talk about that. Um, Arizona has a skilled labor force, long history of mining in the state. It's in the DNA in certain locales of the state of Arizona. There's 10 major copper mines. There's definitely more than 10 mines throughout the state, but there's 10 major copper mines, including several operations run by Freeport McMoran, including the Miami operation, which I actually visited, and I'll show you a picture from there. But Freeport is the mining giant in the state of Arizona. They run some very, very large operations. And they also have some deposits that they're just sort of sitting on, care and maintenance. And we'll talk about one of those later on. There's definitely tier one infrastructure, great roads, power, a lot of solar farms in Arizona, and the geology. I mean, that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, without the rocks, without the metals in the ground, then all the other stuff doesn't matter, right? There's no reason to explore and try to build a mine unless you have that fertile setting. Um, and Arizona has that fertile setting. A lot of porphyries in Arizona, a lot of the largest mines ever in the history of the world located in Arizona, and potential for new discoveries still to be made, including one that was made a little over 20 years ago, the Resolution deposit. So this is Rio Tinto and BHP. So the two largest mining companies in the world have a JV on this project. I think Rio Tinto is actually the operator, but it's like a 55-45 JV between the two largest mining companies in the world. And I think the reason why it is these two mega mining companies is just this is a heavy lift, right? This is a very deep deposit. It's a very large ore body, required a lot to get to the point where they're at on the brink of being permitted. It's required a lot of money. You don't permit a mine like this in a sensitive location. Um, it's near some tribal grounds of the Apache tribe, some sacred lands, um, and they've had to do a lot of lobbying, a lot of um, work on the ground in the community to move this forward to the point where they're at, and they are actually on the brink of the final federal permits, but still not clear when they're going to get those. But the Resolution deposit was a discovery made a little over 20 years ago. I think it was around the year 2000. And it was a deep porphyry discovery, over 1,000 meters deep. And the ore body is extremely high grade. So it's like this buried blind porphyry discovery where the high grade copper sulfides were encapsulated at depth, unblemished, no erosion down there at those depths, but obviously mining at that depth is tricky. So Prismo's Hot Breccia target. So I was there to visit Hot Breccia, and the company is Prismo Metals, PRIZ on the CSE, and they are a sponsor of Goldfinger Capital, and I'm grateful for their support. It was a great visit. So we drove south from Phoenix on the highway, and we visited Resolution. We visited the Ray mine, the Hayden Smelter, the Miami operation by Freeport. Stopped at a lot of different mining venues, I guess you could call it, along the way and on the way back. And I learned a lot of the history of this Arizona copper belt, right? Stuff I didn't know. And something that's interesting about this area of Arizona is um, there, it, there are two copper smelters in Arizona. There's only three copper smelters in the US, and there's one within 5 miles of Hot Breccia, the Hayden smelter, right here. You can see it. Freeport has the Christmas mine, which is even closer to Hot Breccia than the Hayden smelter. But the Christmas mine operated for, I believe, something like 70 years, or maybe even more than 70 years. And it was shuttered in 1982. So just Freeport has had it on care and maintenance. This is a deposit that has over 400 million tons at 0.38% copper grade. So pretty good deposit, and they're just sitting on it, right? I don't know the details of why they've decided to keep that on care and maintenance, why it's not in operation, but that's been their strategy um, for quite a while now, and it's sitting there. A lot of copper in the ground, just sitting there at the Christmas mine, and you can see just the concentration of mines and deposits here in this porphyry belt, and especially towards the north. I mean, you can see the south is not that prolific. There's just the Johnson camp, sort of a lowish grade copper porphyry down in Cochise County. But in the northern end here, near Magma, the town of Superior, um, Miami, there are some really prolific ore bodies. Okay, and then of course over here to the east. But basically, the point to take away here is that Hot Breccia has the right address. It really has the right address, located um, in the right area of the state with great infrastructure, an area where a mine could get permitted and you could make a new discovery, right? This is prolific country for copper discoveries. Here's me taking a selfie in front of the Miami operation. Again, I believe that's Freeport McMoran. It's just kind of funny because I live in Florida and this is Miami, Arizona. And this is near Resolution. So this is the town of Superior. This is Hotel Magma. So there was sort of the short story about Resolution is that there was a mine called Magma, sort of a skarn ore body that was near Resolution that was operating for several decades, and it sort of helped this town get built. And then later, after Magma petered out, I guess, some new eyes took a look at this setting and said, hold on, those limestones there at depth might be a great target to drill into, right? So it took a better understanding of the different layers of the earth, the different plates, the ages of the different plates, and what might be the ideal host rock to host a high grade skarn or porphyry ore body, right? And that's how they found resolution. So this is the Ray mine. This is pretty impressive from the road. Obviously, I didn't get too close, but very large mining operation. And I learned a little bit more about this one. Um, the Ray mine, the ore body, has a very impressive chalcocite blanket at the top of it. It's roughly 70 meters thick. It might pinch down to 50 or 40 meters. It might swell up more than 100 meters in certain areas, but it averages about 70 meters, and it's very extensive. And that's what can make some of these porphyry copper deposits really, really economic and can supercharge the economics when you have either a hypogene chalcocite blanket or you have an enrichment blanket of some sort. I guess most people would call it supergene at the surface. And if it can spread out over a wide area, you can get a very large amount of ore, and that ore is very high grade. Those who know copper sulfides know that chalcocite is like 63% copper. Or sorry, it's 80% copper. I'm thinking bornite. Bornite is 63% copper. So chalcocite is 80% copper. Usually in porphyries, it's chalcopyrite, which is like 33% copper. That's what you're going for, and that's what's usually more abundant. We're happy with chalcopyrite too. That's good ore. Uh, but chalcocite is the holy grail in terms of copper, discovery. So Ray they've been mining this exceptional chalcocite blanket, and there's still some left. They're still mining it, so you can get these really incredible copper grades, 2-3% ore near surface, and that just makes it really incredible. Most porphyries are around, in the body, the real meat of the porphyry. It's like 0.3%. Some of the good ones might be 0.4, 0.5%, but usually not getting grades above 1% unless there's been some exceptional, enrichment sort of event, like at resolution, where you have these, reactive limestones that have really supercharged the copper sulfide concentrations, right? And that's what we're hoping for at Hot Breccia. So this is me and Steve Robertson, president of Prismo, and the CEO Lambert. Uh, Mr. Alan Lambert. Um, we had a good time on this side by side, heading out to the project, and the road was smooth most of the way, but there were definitely some bumpy areas. But it was a fun excursion. And this is Hot Breccia. So this is once you get all the way out there, you get up at elevation, looking towards the Christmas mine. In fact, I think this is part of the Hayden Smelter. It's hard to see, I'm sure, but off in the distance, a few miles away, there is one of three copper smelters in the U.S. owned and operated by ASARCO. And you could just see the sort of the setting here, very much Arizona. And here is this skarn that outcrops, right? So there's a very evident areas of skarn outcrop, and these are copper sulfide. So they have sampled some of these outcropping skarns, and there are grades of 1% plus copper here. And so this is actually evidence. Obviously, this erupted in sort of an explosive event for all of this, material to come to surface so many millions of years ago. But the reason why this is relevant, and the reason why it's called Hot Breccia, is this, mineralization is an example of what they're targeting at depth. So ideally, when Prismo drills Hot Breccia and they get into those limestone units at depth, they will encounter similar copper-bearing magnetite skarn. That's why this is relevant. That's why we care about these little rocks at surface that have 1% copper grades. You can see he's got the PXRF there. He's shooting the skarn. So here's the more close-up shot. There's the Christmas mine. Here's the property border to the east, Tucson to the south, the Hayden Smelter over here to the southwest, and here's Hot Breccia highway running right through the project. And this is sort of the focus area over here. That's where they have this Z-tem anomaly, this conductivity anomaly they have found, and it's also where the outcropping copper skarns are, right? So it kind of all lines up in this area. And I asked Lambert and Robertson about these claims in the middle here. And basically the story is that they have staked this as well, but it's held by another entity. But the way the law works is if Prismo makes a discovery here, then they would likely be awarded these claims as well. Okay, so that's just, it is possible that they could add this ground here. But you'll see on the next couple of slides that they think they have the entire, they have the entire anomaly, and they certainly have enough ground over here to build infrastructure and place equipment. Okay, so here's the model. This is what they're targeting. So this is the Christmas mine, and you can see that at Christmas, the limestones basically daylight. The Nacho limestone basically daylights, and then you have another limestone unit, underneath it, and the porphyry stock here is interacting with the limestones, and that has created some very nice copper sulfide grades, including some skarns, including some hypogene chalcocite that's near surface. And then, you have, as I said, 400 million tons at 0.38% copper there at Christmas, right? So here's Hot Breccia. So it's all around this porphyry stock in red. But at Hot Breccia, this, Williamson Canyon Volcanics has been thrust over the top of the limestones. And then you get into the porphyry stock, and then you get into the natural limestone and the Escabrosa limestone, right? And this is the target area, okay? And when they flew the Z-tem survey, there was a large, very prominent conductivity anomaly that showed up right where the limestones are. Now, limestones are not conductive rocks. I mean, if it was just untouched, unaltered limestone, it would not give a conductive signature. So what is going on there, that at the interpreted depths of the limestone units, there is a conductive signature, a prominent conductive signature, right? Limestones are not conductive rocks. Why is there a conductive anomaly at depth? And this is really the crux of what Prismo intends to target at Hot Breccia. And this is why this is such an interesting uh, drill target, right? Like you can do the math here. So, this is in feet. So getting into this porphyry stock, you have to go down about 400 meters. And then this target area will extend to almost a kilometer. Okay, so you're going from about 400 meters depth to 1,000 meters depth. That's the target zone, and it's pretty wide. It's a pretty big target area at depth, and so that's why this is compelling. Why would somebody want to drill deep holes into a blind target? Well, there's enough clues when you put the evidence together, including those magnetite, the copper sulfide bearing magnetite skarns at surface that are outcropping. Clearly, there was an explosive event that occurred that thrust all that up from depth. And the interpretation is that those outcropping skarns have been thrust up from down here, where this big conductivity anomaly is. And so that's why this is such a compelling target. Here's just a sort of a plan view. The Z-TEM anomaly circled in red, and you can see, I mean, it's a pretty big anomaly. 800 meters wide, almost 1,000 meters deep, and I don't know, 600-700 meters long ways, right? It's a pretty significant target area where if you were hitting, 1% plus copper grades over a pretty extensive area, you would have something very interesting on your hands. Okay, but this is exploration, and this is a blind target, right? And this is the first drill program that Prismo has done. It's not the first drill program that has ever been drilled. Freeport drilled a few holes here in the 70s, and actually there were two holes that intercepted grades of over 1% copper in those limestone units. Now, they don't have the drill core, they don't have the full drill logs, but they have enough data from Freeport. They've bought some files of the old data that it gives them some very good clues. And in fact, there are the drill collars. You can still see the drill collars from the 70s on the Hot Breccia property, and I have some photos of those. So why do I pull up this cross section of resolution? Well, I'm not saying that Hot Breccia is resolution, but the parallels are striking. You have a deep blind target. You're targeting limestones, or at least part of it, carbonate rocks, um, and you have your porphyry intrusive all the way down here. And you can see the ore body, the resolution ore body is in red. So a big portion of it is in limestone, the mescal limestone. And they just drilled basically vertical holes, and they tagged into this ore body. Boom, boom, boom. And you can see over here, part of it is faulted off. But resolution 1, resolution 2, resolution 3, resolution 4, all hit. Just boom, just targeting the limestone unit at depth. And they found a very large high grade copper gold ore body. All right. Um, Prismo is using AI to optimize the drill targeting. They're putting a lot of brain power into this maiden program. Now, again, remember Freeport drilled in the 70s, but they don't have the core, they don't have the complete drill logs. They just have some data that two of the holes hit pretty good intervals, like 20 meters of 1.4%, and then another hole was a little more than 1%, at the depth that the limestones are interpreted to be at, right? So probably the first hole will be very close to the highest grade Freeport hole, basically twin it, and then they have 4 other planned holes stepping out from there, 5,000 meters and 5 diamond drill holes. Budget is 3 million Canadian dollars. Company has a little over 1 million, I believe, right now in the treasury. So there's definitely going to be a financing to fund this maiden drill program. And I think we'll probably hear more about that fairly soon. And this is the management team. So I'm very impressed by these guys. Steve Robertson and CEO Lambert, Craig Gibson, co-founder and chief exploration officer. They have very strong technical advisors. There's multiple PhD geos involved with this company as shareholders and technical advisors. These are serious people, right? So it's not often that you see so many serious people involved with one $10 million market cap company, right? Usually when you get this many serious people involved, the market cap's going to be over 100 million, right? They've probably already made a discovery, right? But Prismo actually has 3 projects. They have 2 projects in Mexico, and those 2 are beyond the scope of this video. But I think most people are involved for Hot Breccia. This is a really compelling drill target, and these PhD, geos who are technical advisors want to be a part of this. Share structure is pretty tight, just over 50 million shares. And probably the best part is that Vizsla owns almost 10%. So those shares aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And insiders, founders, and advisors own almost 30%. So you don't have a lot of paper floating around that's going to hit the market. And that's definitely a positive for Prismo. And here's just going through the deck. Here's the slide that shows the Kennecott. I don't know why I said Freeport. Kennecott, a predecessor of Rio Tinto, drilled those holes in the 70s. And you can see hole 8, 1.73% copper at about 650 meters depth. Yeah. And that's 25 feet. So I don't know, 8 meters at 1.73% copper. And then this one is about almost 20 meters at 1.4% copper and 4.65% zinc. Very interesting, those zinc grades kicked up there. So definitely not dusters drilled by Kennecott back in the 70s. And Phelps Dodge drilled a hole that had sniffs as high as 3.16% copper. But basically, these holes need to be drilled again. Like we need the drill core. We need to log them properly using modern technology. These are just useful anecdotes that maybe say that Prismo's on the right track, but by no means is this compelling evidence yet, right? It's got to be drilled. And here's the news release a couple months ago announcing that they secured the drill permit for Hot Breccia. And then just the final thing I'll note is the chart. Not a whole lot of volatility, but a gentle sloping uptrend since March, and some signs of accumulation. You got some high volume green days in the last couple of weeks. All right. So Prismo Metals, Hot Breccia, very interesting, attractive drill target in the right part of the world to make a copper discovery, the Arizona Copper Belt in the best copper mining state in the United States. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you gained value from this. And if you enjoyed it, please hit the like and subscribe button. and have a powerful week.